Hey, this is Steve in Dallas, Texas. It's Saturday morning, my friend, and you are listening to Light Talk.
Good morning. This is Ellen calling in from the beautiful island of St. Bart's, and you are listening to Light Talk.
And this is David coming to you from the beautiful Belmont Shore neighborhood of Long Beach, California. And if you don't already know, you are listening to Light Talk, and we are the Lumen Brothers.
And sister.
You better believe it, Ellen.
How did she get in?
She got in.
The back door.
She gets in. She knows. She knows people. She knows people. So welcome everyone to episode 356. And today we have a really special guest for you. We'd like to welcome lighting designer, production designer Bryan Hartley to the show. Hey Bryan, how you doing today?
I'm doing all right. Yourself? How's life going?
Life is going great, man, for all of us. And real quickly, where you calling from?
I'm calling live from Las Vegas, Nevada.
Ooh, Sin City.
Yes. It's a great city, too, as well. I mean, I've been here like 15 years, and over just the past 8 years, this place has exploded. You know, with the Super Bowl, the F1 race, EDC and all this stuff. It's crazy here, but it's awesome, and I made a great investment here with a couple places before it got so expensive.
Oh, smart.
So now I have a couple places and all that stuff, so it's pretty cool. I love Las Vegas.
Yeah, don't forget the porn convention, right? Isn't that
and that's happening, I think, now at this month in January.
Okay. Are you doing anything for that? Are you lighting anything?
I'm not lighting anything for that. Would be interesting, I'm sure.
Well, for our listeners who are listening at home and not seeing this, Bryan has also made an incredible purchase in a microphone.
That's right.
And, do you want to talk a little bit about that microphone there?
I'm going to take a screenshot so people can actually see this because it's so damn awesome. And then I'm going to show it like, oh, there's the color. Oh, I got it. It looked like the sphere for a second. It was like morphing down,
I got the sphere here at my house.
You got the sphere. Just look out the window. The sphere's there.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Ellen, why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about Bryan?
I'd love to. Bryan is a lighting designer, production designer, and director who has designed for many bands on stage and on screen, including the Trans-Siberian Orchestra, Kiss, Meatloaf, Poison, Joan Jett and the Blackhearts, Megadeth, Anthrax, Black Sabbath, Deep Purple, Cheap Trick, Alice in Chains, Meatloaf, Chris Brown, and many more, in an incredible career starting in the mid-'80s. His relationship with TSO has spanned over 25 years, and his designs for them are always out of the park, with a bold mix of projections, LED walls, lighting, pyro, and an incredible use of color. Welcome to Light Talk, Bryan. It's great to see you here.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. This is awesome.
Yeah, Bryan, I have a quick question because you've designed for many of my favorite bands.
Okay. Me too.
One of them is Deep Purple. What was it like working with Ritchie Blackmore?
Oh, well, you know what? When I worked for him there, he was already gone. It was Steve Morris, the Dixie Dread. Yeah, he was great. And that was 97, right when I finished the Kiss tour, the reunion tour with Kiss. And then I went with them and did a few shows, right, with Deep Purple. And we got to do Switzerland and we did Beirut, Lebanon, which was very interesting. And then this was 97. And then, so we did Beirut, Lebanon, and I lost my luggage, and Ian Pace, the drummer, we both lost our luggage, and we both got it back a couple of days later. But it was hot and crazy in Beirut, Lebanon. But it was awesome, and and I hung out with those guys quite a bit, and it was like me, Roger Glover, and Ian Gillan, in a hotel room, just smoking hash.
Okay, so
that was amazing.
I assume that John Lord doing hash was just a little below his stature.
John Lord, I wasn't hanging with him, but and it was I can't remember the sound guy. He passed away years ago. But he was an awesome dude. We had a blast back then. But it was amazing because we were in Lebanon. Right. And, and back then, it was always like the Lebanese hash or whatever. And I remember we just smoked this hash in a hotel room. And I don't think we ever got high at all, but we just smoked tons of it. It was pretty funny. So that was a pretty cool experience with those guys,
Oh, it sounds like we need to just welcome everyone to a very special Light Talk After Dark.
That's right. We just changed the date of the release to like after 11 p.m. So we'll have a big warning, right? A big disclaimer on the top. You know, if you're under the age
and
of 18.
that was 30 years ago too. It was 30 years ago.
Is that okay?
So.
That means the statute of limitations is
exactly.
It
doesn't matter at this point.
There you go. That's good. That's really good. All right, so who wants to ask a serious question?
I want to have a follow-up on Beirut.
John Lord? On Beirut.
No, on Beirut. So what happened? Did you send a package over there? Did you pick up a local supplier and they not hash, lighting?
You're talking
the
lighting.
They
It's
flew it down.
Lebanon, Lebanon. So they have that stuff over there. And, back then you're not flying with it. Today you don't really fly with anything. I wouldn't. But we somehow not got it over there, and we played 2 nights there too as well, and it was amazing because it was a stage kind of and it was desert and it was kind of hot, but there was the ocean there too as well, and that's pretty cool. But no, we didn't send no package over there. We got it locally.
So to get, we've jumped in here with TSO and Kiss and Purple. What did you say?
Deep Purple.
Deep Purple.
Yeah, jumped in here with TSO and Kiss and Deep Purple. And so you didn't start there, obviously. Where did you get your start?
You know what? In about the mid '80s, I was a guitar player in a band. I had my own band, so I had a band in North Carolina, and back then you only had to be 18 years old to play in clubs, right? Because the drinking age was 18, right? So I was right about 17 and about to turn 18, and I went on the tour in the summer in between my 11th and 12th grade. And we played. I played in a band. We played cover songs, AC/DC, Motley Crue, all this just kind of rock and roll stuff back then. And that's what we did. And I put together the lighting and the sound, and I had a car and a truck, and that's what we did. And we would play these week gigs. We'd play a whole week at like Hattiesburg, Mississippi, right? Play a whole week, and we would get paid like $1,500, and you get 2 rooms or a band house, right? And you know what? At 17, 18, 19 years old, credit. That was it was an incredible time. But so I did that, and then once my band, we kind of broke up when I was about 20 or 21. And then at that point, I was trying to figure out what to do. And then there was a local band that they were named Nantucket, and they were pretty popular. They had just finished an AC/DC tour, so I just missed out on that. But they wanted a local guy that had some lights. They wanted a lighting guy who had some lights. And I was going, okay. I said, you know what? I can do this. I put together the lighting system, and I showed the guy how to run the lights, right? So I did. So I went on the road with that band, Nantucket, and with my lights, and I was doing lights for them. And I was going like, okay, this is cool. And then my buddy who was with that band, guitar tech, he got a gig with Joan Jett. Right. So he went with Joan Jett, and then they need a lot of lighting guys. So he got me a job there as a lighting guy with Joan Jett. This was probably 84, 85. And then at that point, I went to New York because Joan was from New York. So I did the tour, and then I came off from the tour, and I didn't really, I wasn't a lighting guy. I wasn't anybody with any name at all. You know what I mean? So I would work with Joan Jett in the studio, right? So I would be the gopher kind of guy. I would drive Joan around. I would, I'd go to the deli, you go drop off packages, just the office guy or whatever. But in that, I got to record all these amazing, great records with Joan Jett in the place called the Record Plant.
Oh, yeah.
And there's another place called the Hit Factory
yeah.
we did, but it was mainly the Record Plant. Right, and that's where they recorded like Imagine from John Lennon and a bunch of Kiss records and Alice Cooper records or whatever, all that kind of stuff. So I got to go in there. I did about 4 records, and I could since I was a guitar player, I could tune the guitars. So I would take care of all the guitars in the studio. I'd tune them up, and then they would do the tracks and everything. And that was a nice little period in my life. And there was one time where Joan Jett, she wanted she was playing on this other person's record, and we had to go to Electric Ladyland Studios, right? So we go there, right? I go there a little bit before I had Joan's guitar and her amp, and it was for a band called Keel, right? And so I was in there getting Joan set up and everything, and the producer, you know who the producer was? The producer was Gene Simmons.
Oh my God.
So this was like, that's still like 85, 86.
There you
So,
go.
that's where I first met Gene. And I was just a guy taking care of the guitar for Joan or whatever. But I did talk with Gene about that like years and years ago after I worked with him. So that was pretty cool. But just doing the guitar stuff. And then I got a couple of gigs through like John Broderick. Right, JB. He's been around for years. I don't know what he's doing now, but he's the one that really kind of helped me out. He was an old Joan Jett LD, and then he became Metallica's LD for probably about 20 years or something like that. But he kind of took me under his wing and he got me a gig with New Edition. Right. This is New Edition. This is 85, 86 New Edition. Right. So he got me hooked up with that, and he let me do that, which was pretty cool. And he taught me how to call spots. JB was an amazing spot caller, and he just really focused on that pretty intensely. So, JB helped me out quite a bit. And he was a New York guy, and I was living in New York with Joan Jett and all that kind of stuff. So that's pretty cool.
That's pretty good. So you were like Joan Jett's guitar tech as well.
Somewhat. Yeah, exactly. I was the lighting guy, but when we come off the tour, and I could set up the drums. I would set up all the drums, I can't tune the drums, but I could set them all up. I set up all the guitars. And the main thing was, back then, there was no internet or whatever, cell phone. So I would always have to go to the deli and get the food or something, come back. I would roll joints for Joan constantly, which was amazing too as well.
I think we now need to move into our joint rolling technique segment of the show.
Oh no! We need to back up. We need to back up here for a second. Okay, so you're a young man. You've started your band. Guitar of choice. What was that first rock and roll guitar?
Good question.
Okay, so my guitar was my first one was I got a Les Paul, like a kind of tobacco sunburst Les Paul, but I kind of I really loved Dave Murray. You know who Dave Murray is?
Yeah,
Okay, so Dave Murray had this Strat with the 3 pickups, right? And it was like, I think it was like white with the black pick guard or whatever it was. I got it just like his, you know what I mean? And I was really big Dave Murray fan, so that's what I really liked was that Strat, the white with the black.
It's a lot lighter too than the Les Paul.
Yeah. And it was just, and I loved Iron Maiden, and I love that guitar playing and all that stuff. I still love Les Paul, but there you go.
I would have guessed the Strat, actually. That's what my question.
Yeah.
Now, I have to tell you, I was going to guess the Les Paul.
Whoa.
I was going to guess the Les Paul.
You know what? It should be, and you're right. It should be Les Paul, but like I said, I was just so into Dave Murray and Iron Maiden and that guitar, I switched over there from that Les Paul.
Well, talk a little bit. I'm sure people would like to hear about this relationship you had with Kiss. Was Kiss your first major band? And if it was, how long were you with them?
Well, I'm not sure their first major band, but I started with them in about 93, 94. And I did some Megadeth stuff, which they had a pretty big tour. So I'd already did Megadeth. And what else did I do? I did some other stuff. Trickster I was doing, and then Joan Jett as well. So yeah, I'll say Kiss was the first very, very big band. But when I started with them, they didn't have any makeup on, right? So this is their period where they were just at the end of kind of their non-makeup period. So I started with them there, and I went to South America, and I went to Japan and South America. And the first part of the Kiss thing I went down there with, I had a guy with me named Dino DeRose. He was a dear friend of mine, and he had did lights for Kiss before me. So he had got me in there because he was doing something else or whatever. But he was a dear friend of mine. He passed away many years ago. He used to do lights for Widespread Panic, and he just Cinderella. He had a big resume. But I started with Kiss like that, and let me see where I was going. Okay, yeah. So after that, there's still no makeup, and then they put their makeup back on. in like 96. So I'd been there like a couple years and I did some stuff. We did international stuff. And then when they put the makeup back on, to be honest with you, I was a little worried. I was going like, oh man, it's a new manager. It's Doc McGee. He's got Bon Jovi. He's going to bring in definitely David Davidian or, Ali Olma from the Scorpions or something like that. So I was very nervous because the Kiss, it was a big deal when they put their makeup back on and all four got back together. But you know what? They kept me, and Doc kept me and everything. And, I did probably about another, 12, 13, 14 years out of that, after that. And so I was very happy that they kept me. And then I got to do the reunion tour, right, when they put the makeup back on. And they were all four together. And also, you got to understand, before I was in my band or whatever, I was the kid in my room looking at the Kiss records, right, intensely, and reading everything and all the everything that came in the record covers. You would always look.
Oh yeah,
we didn't have the internet.
Albums are great. Yeah, awesome.
That was how we did, and it was so back then. It was just so mystical and everything. It was just amazing. So for me to get a job and finally end up working with them and doing the reunion stuff. Oh, it was amazing. I had to pinch myself a couple of times in Tiger Stadium because that was where we did the first show with the makeup on. It was like 45,000 people, and it was like, wow, this is pretty cool.
That's totally awesome. Hey, I have a question about Kiss because, and we're going to get into lighting actually now. I'm going to segue into lighting again. Okay. From drugs to albums to guitars to lighting. We were talking earlier about our mutual friend, Andy Figueroa, who worked on many Kiss tours with you. And he was my programmer for many shows here in LA. And he used to tell me stories about the lighting on Kiss because you were there when it started to get really big and really bold and a lot of audience blasters, and
Sure.
fire and, and brimstone and all that stuff, crazy stuff. Could you tell us a little bit how you kind of outdid yourself every tour? Because there was a standard, there was a visual, sort of like Pink Floyd, what Mark would do with Pink Floyd and stuff like that. Yeah. Every production design is an evolution.
Sure,
right?
Sure.
So if you could talk a little bit about how that style happened with Kiss, would be really fascinating.
Sure. I mean, when I first started with Kiss and they didn't have the makeup, it was interesting with going to Japan and Australia and all that stuff, and I had tons of par cans, right? I still had I had moving lights, but I still had tons of par cans. And then I think when they came around to the reunion tour, right? That one I was trying to. I was trying to be more technological, you know what I mean? Not so much of the par cans, and more the moving lights, and then back then we had the mole phase, and, the mole phase were great, but we had color changers on there too, which, were good, but, they were never perfect, so, I think with Kiss, the lighting, plays a good part with them as well. The video does too. They've always been the kind of a band they want to see their faces on the screen and all that stuff. So, as we kind of got started with Kiss and all that stuff, I was trying to bring a bit of drama into it. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, sometimes they got the bright screens and everything are great, but man, sometimes you just don't have the drama. And there was one time with when they had the makeup and all or whatever, we had went to Japan, and for some reason we went to Japan and played Budokan. There was no video, right? I don't know what the situation was. They couldn't get video, whatever it was. So it was just my light show with my Kiss sign. Right. And you know what? That was probably one of the best shows, no offense to the video, but it was just really about the lights and my Kiss sign. And in 96, when they did that reunion, I made a Kiss sign. Right. So I made a Kiss sign out of the actual logo. Right. So I had this big, it was like 20 feet by 10 feet, whatever it was, but it had 1,000 MR16s. Right. And, I feel like that was that was a nice addition to the Kiss show because, I did it and I was very proud of the MR16s. Right. And we used it for the 2 tours right in the middle, like we always did. Right. And then for some reason we had made 2 of them so we can leapfrog, go to South America, whatever. So, and then the Psycho Circus tour, I was like, I'm going to use both of them. So I put one on each side of the stage, and that had 2,000 MR16s.
And then you needed 4 because you needed to leapfrog those 2, right?
Oh, Jesus. Yes, exactly. And that was we did a 3D tour. Where it was like Kiss in 3D, and I remember seeing Conan O'Brien on a late night show. He goes, "I just saw Kiss last night. It was Kiss in 3D." He goes, "But wait," he goes, "if I saw him live, isn't that Kiss in 3D? I don't understand."
That's
pretty funny. Yeah.
That's awesome.
So what came next? Like, how'd you get to TSO from there and Paul O'Neill?
Okay, so TSO came around via Paul O'Neill. Okay, so in the mid 80s, again, once I was up there with Joan Jett in New York, and I was kind of doing those records, or being the gopher, if you will, with Joan, I met Paul O'Neill in the office. It's called Lieber Krebs. And Lieber Krebs, they were in management for, they were managed for AC/DC, Def Leppard, Ted Nugent, and Joan's management was right in that same office. And then Paul was there. And then Paul had a couple of bands. I worked with Heaven. He had Zig Zig Sputnik, and he also had this other band called Sabotage, right? So this was the band that actually became TSO. And so this was a band called Sabotage, and I did a tour with them. It was Sabotage, Megadeth, and Dio in '88, and that's where I met all the Megadeth guys. And Sabotage, and then Sabotage 10 years later, maybe 98, 99, 11 years later, Paul formed this whole Trans-Siberian Orchestra around this one song. Sabotage had a song called Carol of the Bells, 1224 Sarajevo, and it was kind of had that little bit of Christmas stuff in there, right? And then after that song just took off. And nobody really wanted to say it was Sabotage, whatever, because it was very unique. And Sabotage was like a heavy metal band. So they built this whole group, Trans-Siberian Orchestra, around this music and around kind of like Christmas and a story and everything. And then when Paul had that thing, he hit me up and saying, "Hey, I got this cool thing I think you'll be great for. You've always been my favorite light guy." And I was going like, awesome. And he sent me the music, and it was just like, holy shit, this stuff is really, the music just fits with the lighting and everything. It's just amazing. And, about midway through the TSO tour, Paul would come in and say, Brian, he goes, "You're not going to believe this." He goes, "I wrote a song with your lights in mind," so he would always do stuff like that, which, and he was an amazing guy, man. He's the reason TSO is what it is today, right? Because, I designed it and all that stuff, but it was his passion and his intensity, like, "Yeah, Brian, that's great, but you know what? Double that. I want more than that, double it." And we would do crazy stuff like that. And, he goes, "I want the people to come see the show, go and tell their friends, and then twice as many people come back next year." And that's really what he did. And he was never about Christmas, of all things. I know it sounds wacky, but he was going, "Brian, this is not a Christmas show. This is a fucking heavy metal show," and there would be times where he would go like, I would show him a design or something like the castle, the toy box, or whatever we did, and he'd be going, "You know what?" He goes, "Brian," he goes, "that is fucking God. Let's do it," And he was very animated, really long hair, sunglasses, leather jacket, But and he was beloved by everybody. But he was very much of a nutcase, just like, no, Brian, can we have fire in the audience? And we're like, "No, Paul, you can't." He goes, "Why not?" He goes, "Why not? Nobody else has ever done it." Well, I know, for a reason. But he was just that intense, and he had a great passion for it all.
Awesome.
So that was pretty cool.
I think you almost touched on your process, but how's your process evolved? What advice would you give a younger version of you starting that first year with Trans-Siberian, and now, you've done it all.
I for me personally, I was lucky because I was a part of something that was magical, and we really didn't even know it at the time, when it's really that small. So, but what it is for me, I enjoy running lights to the music, right? That's what I like. I like creating something with the music. So, and that's what I was back then. So, a younger version of me, I would tell them just do exactly what you're doing.
And double it.
Just fine. And double it. Yes, of course. But, oh God, he
Except
was
for the hash. You don't double the hash.
Right.
Oh no,
right.
you gotta. How do you
it.
think I'm gonna come up with this stuff every single year after year after year? Yeah.
That's your inspiration. No, it's interesting because you've also seen a great leap in technology, and you sort of mentioned it with the KISS thing about moving into moving lights, right? And then the MR60, all that stuff. Now with AI, how's that affecting you? I mean, is that blowing your mind? Because it's blowing my mind. I'll tell you that right now.
Yes. I mean, forget about all the technology that's happened. That's amazing, all that stuff. But just on that freaking AI thing, oh my God, man, it really is incredible. And I've gotten really heavy into it over the past 3 weeks, right? With just stuff and I've created some amazing stuff, right? And anybody can, if you spend the time and all that stuff. But what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to take that stuff to the next level, right? So the stuff I've created, I like it. It's amazing stuff, and nobody in the world can create it because everything, all that AI stuff is so. Anything it's all different. There's nothing the same.
Yeah,
you can't really make something same. So it's all original. So I want to take some of my stuff and then try to animate that stuff, right? And if I can do that, oh man, the world has just changed when it comes to video content.
So you're talking now video content mainly, but other than lighting. That's interesting because I've been getting into AI too with some of the set and video designs I'm doing now, and
yes.
It is just mind blowing the stuff you can do.
You want a spiral staircase. You want a spiral staircase. You type in spiral, and it gives you so many options. You can go like, okay, I like this. I don't like this. I like this piece, because I'm actually doing my TSO thing right now. And, oh man, AI has been amazing for ideas. I just type in stuff. I see it, boom, you could do another version of it with a variation of it like that. And it really just stimulates your mind. It's just amazing stuff.
Which programs do you use?
I do on the Discord with the Mid Journey, right? Somebody was laughing at me. Somebody saw me. He's like, "Dude, you're using Discord?" And I was like, well, yeah, I mean,
that's what I use.
My buddy he helped me set me up. Yeah. So I didn't even really know. He said Discord, he goes, it's like a chat, it's like an app or whatever, like a texting program. Yeah. But the way you use it with that, is crazy. My buddy was like, some teenagers use.
Well, they're the ones who figured this out.
Yeah, exactly. It's amazing stuff, some of the stuff. And, I've just, when I was in that place in Palm Springs, there was a content guy there. They were doing some AI and they showed me some amazing animations and everything that they were doing. And yes, I want to be full on that. And I will be with my TSO thing coming up for sure.
Cool.
And for listeners who haven't gotten into this, what we're talking about is a program called...
Whoa. Now, hang on a second. Now, are you going to give out the secret and everything?
No, I'm not going to give out any secrets.
I don't want anybody to know about Discord or Mid-Journey. No, I've never ever heard of that.
Mid-Journey is my brother was one who turned me onto it because my brother's a photographer. He's an artist in photography.
Oh, yeah.
So the stuff he's creating now is just so mind-blowing, but it's very inexpensive and it's very easy to get into, and it doesn't take a lot of training. After a while the biggest thing is figuring out how to write prompts, I think, right? Yeah, but it is really a wonderful tool. We're actually starting to teach it in my university. So
I mean, as you should, because give it a little time and it's just going to be everywhere. I see it everywhere now, subtly,
Going back to lighting for a second, what was on the most recent tour for the TSO that you just came off of?
This one, I had a little bit of collection of old things. With TSO, sometimes, I'll go for quantity instead of quality, so to speak. So I'll have like 100 Sharpies, and still to this day with the Sharpies, they work. They go, and if you got enough of them, they really do make an effect. But I had that, but I had some PRG lights that they made LED, the Best Boys.
Yeah,
they were okay.
Yeah.
They were okay. A bit older or whatever, but and retrofitted to make LED, and they were okay. But you know what I had? I had these VL 3600s, right? And man, I tell you what, those things were gorgeous. Man, they were beautiful. And I only had 6 of them because I lit my big nutcrackers that I had. I had these big inflatable 23-foot nutcrackers that I lit, and I used these 3600s. And then I started, once I got into it and started using whatever, and then I only used the nutcrackers for 5 songs, so I ended up using these other 6 lights as like, front center stage light or guitar solo and stuff, and it was so intense. I was going like, holy shit, I like these 3600s, man. They were just beautiful and very nice, bright, kind of bluish white, you know what I mean? It was really, really white, and it looked beautiful. So they did a good job on that light. So that one, and what else? Oh yeah, I had these, all these JDC lines, right? Which I think they've been around or whatever, but I just love those things, man. The JDC, I use JDCs and the JDC lines. And those JDC lines were just absolutely beautiful, and I had to tone them down to probably maybe about, 50%, just so I could hit all this stuff in white and flashing and all this stuff without killing everybody, but still being enjoyable to watch. And then what else did I had? I had a couple hundred spikies. Right, which those things, the spikies are awesome. They've been around for a while too. I've used them for many years. And then the wash lights I used were Ayrton Magic panels. And here again, they've been around for a while too as well. But, a lot of this stuff, I can get a ton of them cheap. You know what I mean? So that's kind of why I use some of it, Next year, I still haven't figured out the lighting yet as to what I want to do. But I'm sure it's going to be something similar.
It's so amazing that the manufacturers are creating all these lights now. Because I was thinking about, when we were interviewing Mark Brickman a couple of years ago, he was telling us about the time when he had to retrofit some telescans with searchlights from police helicopters, right? So, which is crazy, right? But he wanted that power. And I think he used it on one of the Genesis tours. But anyway, nowadays, we're blessed to have all these manufacturers creating all this amazing equipment, right?
Is a million of things out there that are, it's just a ton of stuff. Yeah. And the LED thing has just brought lighting to another whole world, right. You know what I mean, over the past 10 years,
It's sort of like, because you're a musician, I'm a musician, I play keyboards. And back in the old days, you had a Hammond organ, you had an electric piano, you had an acoustic piano, and a clavinet, maybe a Moog, right? Nowadays, you can have any sound you want, any sample you want, right? The technology has reached that point, for like $1,000. It's not even expensive. And the guitar player is the same thing. You can have a pedal board with all these effects in it that you don't need a Marshall anymore, right?
No. I think the playing field is level kind of on the recording side of things, right? Because used to, you would have to do what I did and what you did back in the old days. You go into the studio, you do all this stuff. Nowadays, you don't have to. Somebody can do this stuff in their bedroom, and it could be a #1 hit all over the world.
Well, Tom Schultz,
you know what I mean?
Tom Schultz recorded that first Boston album in his basement.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. And that was a long time ago, too,
that was
as well.
A long time ago.
I'm saying now these people, like even kids, 15-year-old kids, they can produce an album and put it out and and it go viral and it's huge, I think that's and I think it's the same way with lighting. There's so much lighting out there. The band down the street that's playing the lounge over here, they got 40 Sharpies, and they got all these lights, tubes and everything. So I think a lot of people have more access to everything, so which is great, because I didn't when I was doing my band, I had to buy the Par 64s from Altman, right, and then I had to get the Par can the bulbs, and then I had to get the ACLs, and I had to wire the ACLs in series,
right.
But that's what you did. Thank you, Howard Ungerleider. He's the one that figured out that whole ACL thing with the doing foreign series and everything.
Right.
He did that years ago with Rush and C Factor.
Whatever happened to the millions of par cans that used to be out there? Where are they?
You know what? Where was I at? I was at some little lighting company over here, and this guy had all these par cans. I was going, "What are you doing these?" He goes, "I literally do nothing with them." He goes, He goes, "I should throw them out," but he goes, "They're just sitting there." He had rows of par cans and everything. And, over the years, you'll see where, people throw away 100 of them or whatever, or they just try to give them away, and they're just kind of useless. In my garage right here, I have this, because I used to be an Icon operator. When I started with Kiss, actually the very first Kiss show I did was on an Icon console, which was LSD. It was Nick Jackson and those guys. They made the Icon console and the Icon board. But in my garage, I have an old Icon, and these things are big. These things are big and clunky. And my buddy gave me one. I was like, "Oh yeah," because I used the Icons the entire existence, right? But they're gone. They don't exist anymore. But I used them, and then he gave it to me. The thing about it is, he gave it to me when I lived at my other place in Vegas, which was 14 years ago, right? And then I brought it to my house here, so it's sitting in my garage here. I don't know why. I just need to throw it out because it's just been sitting there for like 14 years,
I took some Icons out on the road, and the guys at Bandit Lights looked at me and said, we're not going to send those out. And I went, "Why?" And they said, I said, "Why?" And they looked at me and said, "You and what nuclear physicists are going on the road to keep them working?"
I wouldn't throw them out. I'd put it on line and somebody will
you
take
could put
it
them
from
in Brian's garage.
I mean, you know what? I would. There's Andrew Gumper.
Sure.
Yeah, he's got that big. Now up at his place, he's got a museum. And he's got all these old lights. He's got a Selco Gold up there. He's got a lighting museum up there, and he already has a couple of these Icons. And because I was going to give him this one, but he's got like old studio spots, studio color. It's like a little mini lighting museum up there.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, that is cool.
When you talk about this older technology, is there anything you still have a sweet spot for and you think, yeah, I'd like to use this again somehow?
No, not really. I mean, the par cans were cool, but I mean, it just wouldn't be, you just wouldn't do that now. You could do it for like a video shoot, which I see that happen a few times. And sometimes you get these award shows and you'll see they'll use a bunch of pars, Who knows if it's really par cans inside of the bulb in there or not, but they look like par cans. But, no, the ACL was my favorite thing. The ACL was, and when the other guy, Paul O'Neill, I was talking about, right? Oh, dude, he was a freak about ACLs, and he would almost not give these things up. And it got to a point I was like, "Paul, I got these new ACLs, and what they're called is they're Sharpies," right? But yeah, and then he saw, and I showed him these things. He goes, "Yeah, I love those." So I finally got rid of the ACLs with TSO, probably about 2010 or something like that.
I remember when the Sharpie came out, and I was at LDI that year, and I was with Ann Militello, and she said, because I asked her, I said, what are you looking for? What are you looking? She goes, "There's this new light that's coming out. It's called the Sharpie, and I got to see it." So we got into the Clay Packy private room upstairs. This is back when they actually invited me to these things. They stopped doing that for a good reason, but that's another story. But we were up there, and we saw this thing in like this little room, and I swear it was going to burn a hole through the wall.
Yeah,
I was amazed. I was just amazed at this light.
Yes, amazing. And it's lasted for so long.
Know.
I mean,
it's crazy, huh?
I got on TSO when they came out. I said, I got to have some of these. Let me get 16 of them or something like that. And they were just a big hit. And they still are.
Well, they become iconic, basically. It's an iconic light.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, they definitely had a hit with that one. That was a good one and long lasting. So
yeah, that's for sure. So after you nixed Paul's request for fire in the audience, you do put pyro on stage, though, right?
Well, we got a ton of pyro on stage, and one of the things with TSO I did in the early years, I was going, I want to put it in the seats, right? So I put it in the seats, kind of along the well, where the seats were be on each side of the stage. We'd clear that out because we weren't quite selling all the sold out arena at that point. So I had some space, and I did that for a while. And then I always have pyro behind me at front of house. So we've always had pyro at front of house, and it's always tricky because one time I had this freaking pyramid. I had a pyramid that would come up, and it was video all around it, and this thing would open up like that, and 4 sides, and this thing would be 32 feet wide, right? This pyramid thing would come open up four sections, and then fire would go up there. It was pretty intense, man. So we've always done some kind of crazy fire stuff like that in the audience.
How close were you to the pyro?
You know what? This year I made another pyramid, not as intense as the one I just explained to you, but this one there, and it literally was probably right at the edge of the riser for me. There was a couple of times I was going like, okay, hello, somebody, guys, I don't mind, I like it, but when the pyramid would turn, it would encroach on the riser about 1.5 feet, so I was like, no, we got to move it back a little bit, but yeah, we always do some cool stuff out in front of house, and in front of house, maybe a couple years ago, I had a Tesla coil. Right.
Oh,
so I had this amazing Tesla coil, and then I put 2 things of flames in the top of the Tesla coil that shot out fire, and that was another.
There are high school students right now writing all this down, and they're about to go to
Yeah.
science class and go, well. What's a Tesla called?
Yeah, but well, you know what? With TSO, man, I got to tell you, I've had the fortunate thing of just designing all these crazy things over a 25-year period. So and like I said, and this year we just did. This one I got into the inflatables, right? And I made, so behind me this year, I made a snow globe, right? And I put a girl inside of it singing a song, right? And you know what? It was just, I've had the snow globe idea for a few years, but I was kind of waiting for the story that it kind of goes with, but they just haven't done it. So I was going, I'm going to do a freaking snow globe anyhow. So, and I did, you know what? And it was a huge hit, man. Everybody loved it. So, that's cool technology, stuff like that. And I had those big, tall nutcrackers that were 23 foot high, and they were just gorgeous. They looked like real nutcrackers, and so did Snow Globe. Snow Globe looked real, and then you put a girl inside of it singing a song, and it goes up in the air and spins around. You know what? I was very proud of that one.
How long is the day?
I like that one.
How long does it take to bring TSO in and get them out?
Oh, TSO, you got to figure they'll probably start chalking like at 5, right? 5 a.m. and then load in at 6, right? And then we go all the way up until maybe about 12:30, and I'll do a little focus. I'll do about, half hour, 40-minute focus, if that. And then boom, the doors are open for the first show at 3 o'clock. Okay.
Wow.
So, we'll do doors at 2 o'clock, right? 2 o'clock in the afternoon and do that. And then we do that show. And then there's a short, hour and a half, 2 hour between shows. And then we do another show at 8 o'clock at night or 7:30. And, you do that. Wednesday's a single show. Thursday's a single show. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday are double shows, right? So you're doing 6, and 7 and 8 with Tuesday. You're doing 8 shows in 5 days, right? Now, if you count the other tour into it there, you're doing 16 shows in 5 days.
Wow.
How much time do you spend in previs?
Previs, I go about a month, leisurely, not not all day long, whatever, but, I'll spend a good month on the previs, and I use the pence. And this year would be nice because with the TSO, sometimes I go from year to year, depending if the design is similar or what the lights or whatever. But this year I'm starting totally from scratch, and I'll be on all my MA3s. So I've just purchased a bunch of MA3s over the past 5 years. So I got 6 of those, and I'm gonna get 2 more, and that's gonna fill out my entire TSO for both shows with the Grand MA. I was a hog guy for many years, and I've just recently sold my hogs, I'm in the process of selling them, and it's just going to be all the M83.
Yeah,
So
Just to clarify for people that you are out there every night running this show on the
yes.
East Coast or West Coast?
I do it on the East Coast, and I've been there. I've been doing the East Coast since the beginning. On the West Coast, I have a gentleman. His name is Michael Keller, right? And he's kind of an old school lighting guy from many years ago. He's done Aussie for the past 20 years. He used to work with Peter Morris and stuff like that. So he runs the lights for me on the West Coast.
So there's a double tour going at the same time, East Coast, West Coast.
Exactly, and they're identical. And the music's identical, and I get the so that I can keep it the same. I do quite a bit of time code, but some of it I run manually. But that's I do the time code there because it's just two different. Not to say that Michael could do it at all by any means, but you know what? It keeps it really in time. It makes the band, they have to play the exact same thing all the time. So I know my show over there is actually me running the board.
Right,
you know what I mean? Via the time.
There's so much going on with the lighting and the video and the moving set pieces and the girls in the snow globes and the pyro. And, you have to use time code.
Well, you know what? Yes, it does, because it starts with time code, but it also starts with if you're using time code, the band has to play the same thing. They have to play the exact same thing. So that keeps them and that keeps everything. And my laser guys, they take advantage of the time code too as well. And the pyro guys take advantage of it in certain situations. But you know what? It does help it keep it very very together. And especially when you're dealing with two different sets of people. You know what I mean? So a person can have just a guitar playing different stuff can have an influence on the whole thing, but they have to play it the same. So it really keeps it the same on both sides.
Yeah, it's locked in. And that's when it all started, way back, when we first started to get even video in sync with Pink Floyd and Genesis and bands like that. They were using a lot of time code back then. And with tracks also, playing tracks.
I don't care, who you are. I know people sometimes say, oh, I don't need that. Well, I mean, sometimes you do in order to make it right. You know what I mean? Because you're just not going to be able to do it humanly like that on such a big scale like that.
So we're kind of running out of time, Bryan. We could talk forever, but we always ask this question, when we have a lot of really, really famous people on the show, people like you and other amazing people, who've are superstars in the lighting industry.
They're old, basically, is what you're saying. They're old, okay.
Okay, that being said, we're also educators, and we have a lot of students who want to become lighting designers, and we have a lot of students who want to get into your field. They love busking, they love live music, they're musicians, who want to get into lighting. What sort of advice would you give these young artists who want to do what you're doing?
Oh, well, I think the opportunities are amazing this time for young people, and people always ask me, what should I do to get into this? Depending on how old they are, I say go to clubs. There may be, and now in this generation, you got EDC clubs, and some of these places got more lights than I ever had when I started out. You know what I mean? So they're already starting out on another level. But go to your local lighting companies. Sometimes your church, theater, high school, and all that kind of stuff. But, the reason I'm here is my passion for music. That's why I'm here. It's about lighting for sure, but the reason I'm here is because of music. So, and if you're passionate about music, you'll do whatever. And I feel like if you're a musician or if you're like that, you give it all you got and you'll succeed, as long as you just give everything you got. And I almost feel like sometimes with the musician type things, it's sometimes better to be a lighting guy, because I tell you what, I know friends of mine that were amazing guitar players, better than me and all that stuff, and they stuck with playing guitar. I get it, but you know what? They're still in the same hometown. They never did anything at all. They just kind of play guitar. Maybe that's what they want, but I was kind of looking to kind of like, succeed on a higher level, So, these young people today, and there's plenty of like Full Sail, there's that kind of stuff. But, my thing is more go to a club or work for a local DJ that has lights and all that stuff. You work with local bands, but do they even have bands like that anymore that play around in clubs and stuff like that?
Yeah, I'm in one of them.
Oh, really? Okay, well then there you go.
But we don't have any lighting systems, believe it or not. We can't afford it.
Oh, what do you mean can't afford it? Everybody can afford it nowadays. But hey, man, if you're into the music, this is the perfect place to be with the lighting and everything, because I'm so fortunate because I love music so much and I get to create all this stuff with music, and that's just an amazing thing. So I'm very fortunate on that.
Yeah, you're preaching to the choir here with me, because that's why I do it. It's so great to have you on the show today. We've been admirers of your work for decades. And to our audience, and a lot of our audience are younger, when we talk about TSO, that's Trans-Siberian Orchestra, and if you haven't seen this show, you have to see this show. It is one of the most spectacular shows I've ever seen.
It's different every single year, right? So now this coming up year, it doesn't matter that you didn't see last year. Wait till you see this one. And Ellen, all you guys, you got to come check it out.
Wow, yeah, I haven't been in probably, 6 or 7 years. When do you start? When does the tour start?
Well, with TSO, it starts officially like right around November 15th.
Thanks again, Bryan. It's great to have you here, and thank you so much from the entire Light Talk family.
Appreciate it very much.
All right. Well, the rocking sounds of the Luminoids tell us that once again you've spent another morning listening to Light Talk. You can hear our show on just about every podcast site out there. Check out our website at lighttalk.org, and be sure to follow us on Facebook and subscribe to our podcast. That way you will not miss a second of Light Talk insanity.
No guarantee is offered regarding the accuracy of any statements or opinions made on this podcast. However,
if you do decide to litigate, the Snoot Group, with the legal team of Sparks, Burnout, and Chase, will defend us until our retirement funds are depleted.
Light Talk is written and produced by the Lumen Brothers and Sister, coming to you from Las Vegas, Long Beach, St. Bart's, and the Lone Star State.
And be sure to join us next week when we talk about more lighting shenanigans and serve you more of our casserole of nonsense.
Light Talk, broadcasting questionable Lumen knowledge and humor around the world.
Well, we'll see you all next Saturday morning. Bye-bye from Light Talk.
Bye-bye.